everybody, welcome to the Geek Vault. It's your boy Dre. This is the entrance to some of my older content videos. So if you're seeing this, thank you for watching the video. Thumbs up, thumbs down if you don't like it, thumbs up if you love it. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel so you can see more of new content, old content, whatever content in the middle. But in any event, I just wanted to have this video kind of go out there. So if you see in the video, like, why does it say Dre's Geek Depot, or it says Toy Chats, or the Geek Dad, or the Nerd Dungeon? These are older videos that I did years ago, last year, or a few months ago, and I wanted to rebrand them under this channel, but it would be a lot of work just to re-edit everything out. So I'm just editing this video in so you guys can see, hey, it's me, and it's the Geek Depot, or not the Geek Depot, duh. It's the Geek Vault. And eventually, like I said, when I started this channel, if you watch that first video, it tells you what I was doing about rebranding. But eventually, at some point, I'll make a video explaining the whole thing. So thank you for coming, for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the content. Stay geeky, y'all. Peace. So, welcome to the panel. If you are here for comic books and education, you are in the right panel. Now, I've done this panel at the National Social Studies Conference because I'm a social studies teacher, teaching middle school, 8th grade. And one of the fun things is in teaching is that being a nerd is becoming more acceptable in the classroom. I have several friends in here that have come to actually see this, and they are geeks as well in the classroom. So this is something that if you want even to do at homeschool, as well as if you're just a parent that wants to find a way to include geek culture in stuff you want to teach your kid, niece, nephew, son, daughter, whatever, you can apply some of this to them. And I can give you some of the information on how to do that. So my name is Andre Saunders. Again, I'm from New York. I've been a long-time geek. Started my YouTube show 2 years ago, and it mostly just covered like kind of geek and sundry kind of stuff. I kind of was just like, oh, I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But when I got into actually being a teacher, I was like, my kids would see me wear like a Adventure Time button-down shirt, or they would see me wear like a Fallout shirt, and they're like, hey, you love what we like. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But like the school kind of looked down on it. So one day I just kind of like looked at my principal, I was like, well, why are you looking down on it? Like, you have Panther stuff and golf stuff all in your office. And he was like, well, okay, if you can make it work, do it. So I found ways, and I started looking at blogs and other teachers and looking to other people that were interested in what I was interested in and how they applied it to make it work for their classroom. And it was difficult because there wasn't a lot. About 4 years ago, I've been in education now going into my 14th year, but this is my second year in the classroom. And it's a lot of fun. 6th grade wasn't as much fun to bring it in because they're like, oh, I'm starting to become a teenager. I don't really know if I like that you're into Batman like me. 8th grade, they love it. They're like, oh, you're awesome. Like, you know video games. You can talk Fortnite and Overwatch with me. Awesome. And it works. Now, how you can get this to work in the classroom, or how you can get this to work for you, is if you're interested, don't be afraid. That's the biggest thing I can tell you, and advice I can give to you, is don't be afraid. One thing that happens is that as a geek, we were always growing up, you're told, keep that kind of out of the light. Like oh, you like Batman? Don't say you like Batman. I was an athlete, but I also loved comic books, played D&D, played video games. That sort of stuff bleeds through now, and now it's extremely acceptable. You can see everybody in this room is wearing a comic book t-shirt, from Walking Dead to Green Lantern to my favorite right there, Batman. And that's something that people are like, well, even if I don't know the character, I've seen the movie. Or, I don't know, I just like it because. And it's becoming that fad, the it thing. And that's how you get the hook for your kids. Even if you're not fully invested yourself, it's a hook that gets you interested. And I created on my YouTube show, I do this thing called the Top 5 list. And I've done it from movies to like comic books to like everything. And the Top 5 list that I created, I love being a teacher, we always have technical issues, so give me a second. On top of it not being able to work because they gave me HDMI and I said VGA, so that's true nerd right there. So, the best way to involve this is with the top 5 list. Number 5 on my list says, make ideas relatable and easy. Now, in the classroom, it's easier for me, because I can find a topic, like we'll talk about social studies. We talk about liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican. Boring topics, right? I mean, I'm a historian. It's boring to me. But I take Captain America and Iron Man, and I go to Civil War. I show the kids a clip of when they're having a conference at the beginning of Age of Ultron, when they're talking about Sokovia falling. Or no, it's Civil War, sorry, it's the beginning of Civil War. You have Sokovia, and they're talking all about it, and you can see Cap's reaction, and you see Tony's reaction. I stopped and I was like, hey kids, what do you see? They're instantly like, I see all the superheroes. I'm like, all right, let's go deeper than that. What else do you see? Well, we noticed Captain America's kind of taking the side of Scarlet Witch, and I'm like, all right, that's where I got you. Now let's go deeper. Continue to dig. And they started digging, and they start coming up with what I want them to. Who do you think's conservative? Who do you think's more liberal? Why do you think they're that way? I had a student, and her work's actually on here, and I'll let you guys, when you guys want later on, come up. She knew nothing. Zero. Hated comic books. Completely bold-faced selling in my class, which hurt my heart. But she understood. I was like, all right, this girl put out probably one of the best assignments I'd ever seen for someone that did not like comics. And I asked her, I said, hey, can I use your work for my panel? And she got embarrassed. She's like, really? I said, yes, I want to show your work off. I said, I can't do this. You did. You weren't interested. I am. And it's amazing. She was able to take the comparisons, going from comic book knowledge to relating the information that I had to teach. I hate Common Core. I do. But we're stuck teaching. So if I can spin it to make it fun for me to teach, there's a cheat right there. I will say this part, you can see me sip from water because I'm fighting a very bad sinus cold, so I apologize. But when you're trying to get that hook for them to be interested, again, relatable. That was one. I've done other books, like we had to do colonization. Now that's boring. I don't want to talk about the early English colonies, 13 colonies, it's boring. Neil Gaiman writes a book for Marvel, where all the original superheroes are now colonizers from England. So you get like Spider-Man, you get Captain America, Doctor Strange, the Incredible Hulk. It's called Marvel 1602. I absolutely love the book. One of my coworkers actually bought it for my classroom, and because I got a lot of readers, and mostly this is something too, if you have kids that don't like to read, either at home or that you teach, on any grade level, pictures work. Pictures carry. There's more words I can get out of a student that can see a picture and an image than they can actually get from reading just the text in a book. That's one great book to use. So when I'm saying make it relatable, even at home, make it relatable in your classroom too. That's number 5. Number 4, use popular culture as a conversation starter. Now, in my classroom, we have them like called bell ringers, like in the beginning 5 minutes of my class. So I'll find something that was in the news like recently. I'll use Black Panther because that's obviously been the hot topic. Now, I teach in a predominantly Hispanic African-American school. So for me, as a minority growing up in New York, being Hispanic, we don't have a whole lot of superheroes. So my kids were like, oh, you're going to see Black Panther? You're going to do that? I was like, you know what? I'm going to start showing you guys some clips. I'm going to start bringing this into the classroom. Because if you're interested, you're bringing it to me. I got to find a way to make this relatable. And they brought the conversations up. Mr. Saunders, what happened to that director? What about the guy that plays him? Ironically enough, Chadwick Boseman is born in South Carolina. So my kids were like, wait, he's from like right down the road, guys. I was like, they're like, oh, I was like, hey, got you, hook. Hey, the director's from Atlanta. Hey, that's like 3 hours down the road. Got you again. And they're both black. So these kids are now seeing people that can be successful in a movie and a superhero that they can identify with. Now granted, as an aside, I love the movie. I liked a lot of the concepts behind it, but I loved the story it told. And my kids liked it, to see characters they can relate to. I grew up with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. It wasn't until about 10 years ago you started seeing people like Steel, people like Black Lightning, Miles Morales. Hell, I'll even go to Gwenpool, Spider-Gwen. You don't see many minority or even homosexual or any other kind of characters. You just get stuck with these kind of pre-made superheroes. Wonder Woman being the true iconic female, But you didn't start seeing it till about 10 years ago. And then Wonder Woman pops out. Again, and my kids are bringing it to me. Well, why are we not seeing that more? Why are we not seeing this? And that's a great social studies topic because we study culture. So they're now seeing this culture evolve. They're seeing their time frame evolve. And they're like, how do I want to make this relatable to me? How can I understand this? And it makes it more fun for me because I get to see the movie. And I've even tried. I've even reached out to like Chadwick Boseman. I've had people like actually wanting to bring these people in. Obviously, they're never going to come to my school. But I always feel like, why not reach out? Because a teacher in my district reached out to Oprah and got Oprah to pay for her entire class to go see Black Panther. And she teaches in a bad neighborhood in Charlotte and was able to do that. And posted it all over Twitter. And I was like, that's impressive. Because a teacher, we don't have money. I know, I didn't do it for the money. Definitely didn't do it for the money. But I do it because of the impact I could have on my kids. And that's ultimately why. That's part of why I say, when you make it a conversation starter, if you happen to know the topic, pretend like you don't. Let them be the expert. If you're at home and you're trying to get your kid interested in something, my nephew, my son, he loves Pokemon, he loves Yu-Gi-Oh! That kid could talk my ear off about Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards on the phone all day. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't know nothing about this stuff anymore. I used to. But let them be the ones to draw you in. Show them that they have that level of interest. Let them be the ones to guide the conversation. And then even there's books for as parents. They're starting to write more stuff for parents. Like hey, here's a guidebook on Yu-Gi-Oh! Here's a guidebook on Pokemon. Doesn't mean you have to know it, but it helps that you have, and if you don't want to spend the money, internet's a great resource. Google is your friend. Please use it. My nephew loves Minecraft. I know nothing of Minecraft, but the guy loves it. So I sit there, I'm like, sure, whatever. And then I'll sit there and be like, hey, I know a creeper. Oh, he's like, hey, I know what the creeper is. You know how to make diamond armor? I'm like, no, but you can tell me. And as his uncle, male figure that he respects and he admires, and is a fellow geek, he feels that connection, and it opens him up to wanting to talk and builds that relationship. And that's something you guys can do. I know a lot of people feel that it's easy. Oh, because we're nerds, it's automatically easy. It's not. You got to find that bridge. And that bridge is that simple conversation starter. Hey, did you watch that new episode of Pokemon? No, I didn't. Hey, well, this is what I saw. And if the kid knows about it, they can tell you. So that's something you can use. Number 3. Now this is the big thing Charlotte, I should say North Carolina, and most states are starting to do. Increased literacy. Big problem is kids don't want to read. Why do I want to read when I can go on the internet? Why do I want to read if I can get a tablet in front of my face or a phone? And believe you me, I love my technology. My girlfriend laughed at me because I have 3 laptops in the hotel room, my Amazon Kindle, my Surface Pro. Yeah, I came loaded with tech. But I hate that I feel that crutch. I still like a book in my hands and having the sense of ink on my fingers. And that's getting lost. So literacy changes. So you have to evolve with the change. As a teacher, I've evolved with it. They want graphic novels? Awesome. I get heavily image picture ones. One of the best ones I just started using, and Senator John Lewis was at Comic-Con in 2016. He was huge in the civil rights movement. Was arrested. This guy went to Comic-Con and put out a comic book called March. It's 3 books, all about his time in the civil rights movement. We're covering that right now in my class. So I took the first page of the book, and they show like a riot. It's black and white, and the kids looked at it. I said, I want you to pair up, and I want you to look at this and tell me what you see. There was only a couple word bubbles on it, and mostly it was like the cops yelling at the African Americans that were rioting, or look, they were protesting. And the stuff that the kids were giving were gems, because they're looking at comic book art, but they're analyzing it as you would analyze Shakespeare, as you would analyze any other famous book of literature. And trust me, my ELA department, they laugh at me all the time. They're like, you sit at lunch and talk about comic books all the time. But guess what? My kids read. My kids write. I want to prepare my 8th graders to go into high school to read. My nephew, he loves to read. Again, loves Minecraft. So I'll buy him a book. I'll buy him the novels. Because if he wants to read, I'll support it. If it's something that he likes, it gets him that increased vocabulary. Now they're starting to reach out, and SAT books are starting to write in those styles. They're getting comic book people to come in and do that sort of stuff. Teachers have a great resource called Reading with Pictures. It's actually a company, it's a not-for-profit. I bought 2 copies of this book. It breaks down how to teach And even if you're a little kid, like if you're 5 or 6 years old and you just thumb through the pages, it's cartoony, it's kind of like hokey and cheesy, but it teaches you Pythagorean theorem. It teaches you how the earth was created. It shows you how ecosystems work. But it's all done in comic book art. Again, if I can get a 5-year-old to sit and read that, if I can get a 15-year-old to sit and read that, that's awesome. Again, literacy, find what they're interested in. There's a lot of, my administration gets mad at me and they laugh at me. They're like, well, you just can't keep doing pictures. You gotta find like books for like the kids that like to read. I'm like, well, there's great stuff like Dresden Files. I love the Dresden Files. I love the TV show. So I get those books in there. I'll get stuff like Hunger Games. Because Hunger Games is a great social commentary. People starving and they're fighting for food and they're fighting against with cultural implications. Female leads. There's several things you can cover in that, and they're great books. Now those are for people that are advanced readers, or if you have a son or daughter at home that wants to read that stuff, that's great, and you can have great conversations about it. It opens up a lot of doorways. So that's why I say increase literacy. Charlotte's been doing it. I'm doing it at my school. I have several friends that, when they came to this panel, when I did it in North Carolina over in Raleigh, Greensboro, they were able to actually start applying some of it, I think, in their classrooms if they're not doing it already. So it makes me feel good that we're already starting to do this as teachers. And like I said, if you're a parent, brother or sister that wants to help your little brother or little sister read, or niece or nephew, these are great tools you can use. Now, number 2. Now, I wish I could get this on the screen up here, but I have images. One of the things with number 2, I said have students draw from what they know, or have kids draw from what they know. I'm not an athlete anymore, used to be. But I put on this thing, it's a picture of Steph Curry. Everybody knows who Steph Curry is. Oh, that's HDMI, it's VGA. My school paid for all the bells and whistles. We went low tech, not high tech. But on there it's got Super Mario, Darth Vader, Kendrick Lamar, and Steph Curry. Those are people that I literally, and I know Tim knows this because I did not. This list I came up with the night before. When I did this, the night I presented it, I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Went on Google and I started pulling images up, and then I was like, my roommate that was from a fellow teacher with me, I was like, he's 24. I was like, dude, what do the kids listen to? I love the music, like hip hop. Give me something. He's like, Kendrick Lamar. I'm like, okay, sure. And I was like, give me another one. It's like Steph Curry. I'm like, oh, okay, I know Steph Curry. And I was like, and it worked because my kids will come and see that, and they're like, that's Steph Curry. And I'm like, you guys can quote his stats. You guys can tell me what he puts up every game. Now we got to start getting you to do that for social studies. But if I could draw you in with that interest, and they can see that I have that common level with them, now they're interested. And they stay interested. Because now there's like, oh, they'll see me in the hallway. So did you watch that game with Curry? No, I didn't. Tell me about it. Right there. Now I'm building a relationship. I've done this with other students that are not even on my grade level. They laugh because they're like, man, you're all over the place. Kids on 6th grade know you. I'm like, yep, they do. I know 7th graders. My 7th graders, I had taught them last year. So when they come up to 8th grade, they're itching. Every day I get the same 12 kids walking to my door saying, we're getting you next year. I'm like, I hope so. I was like, talk to Mr. Eaton, he'll let you know. And they're like, we'll talk to him. But it's building those relationships with them already while they're on a different grade level, and they're already looking forward to see what's happening next year. And my door doesn't change. Everybody on their door has these inspirational quotes and all this other stuff. And I'm like, all right, I have one, Maya Angelou, I Will Rise. And the reason I pulled that was because during Black History Month, one of my students got together and we were doing a timeline. And she's like, Mr. Saunders, I want to write this quote on our timeline. And I was like, this is beautiful. I need this on my door. So when you walk in, there's 2 signs. My 6th grade class made one that says, this is where the magic happens. And that's right on my door. And the other one is a quote on my window that says the whole quote of I Will Rise. Because I want these kids to know, you walk through this door, you're going to work, but the bar's set up here, and my kids will rise to meet those expectations. Now, obviously, if you're at home and you want to do like put a magnet up there, or even on the wall, you can do something like that. You can create a project that helps you to do that. If you're working in after school program, there's so much fun you can have, because that's where I got my start. I was in after school working with kids that did not want to be in class and did not want to do their homework. But I would sit with them and find that little avenue and get them motivated and get them interested. And that's where I was like drawing on that interest. Because again, I'm not that big into basketball. I'm more of a baseball, football fan, more of a wrestling fan, like my t-shirt. But not everybody is. So if you can find that, and I tell people, it's the first thing, and I will repeat this over and over, it is fear. Fear is what stops you. Instantly, it's like, you get in there, it's like, all right, I'm gonna start talking about this, and no, don't wanna do that. You gotta learn when to take the brakes off and just go walk into it and just kind of have that confidence. Like I said, I was walking into a room today, not knowing how many people I was gonna have, not knowing if anybody was gonna be interested, not knowing what was gonna happen, but I'm used to it. I get up here every day, day in and day out, and I love to talk. But when you have that confidence, it's no longer being afraid, it's now I want to share the story. If you guys have any questions while I'm talking, feel free to chime in. I don't mind, because it's kind of like that sort of style. Now, of course, technical issue. Let's go, okay. Now, this is the number one part of this list, and I always have an honorable mention. Like when I've done lists in the past, I'll do like, hey, this superhero, I have to throw the superhero on the list just because. This is draw from your own personal story. Like I said, I grew up in New York. I came from a single parent home. I'm Hispanic. My kids see that and they're like, I can relate to you. If you're already living that life, they see it. And they identify with heroes or heroines that are a part of that fandom. You might get a few that stray. Some people that are like, hey, I like Captain America. And I'm like, well, I love Captain America too. But do you know that Captain America was black? What do you mean? Sam Wilson. They're like, I don't know that. Here's the book. Take a look. But why? He's supposed to be... No, he's not supposed to be. Anybody could put the suit on. Did you know Batman? There's a black Batman? What do you mean? He's Batman. Take a look. And these kids see that. Hey, guess what? There's a female Robin. What do you mean there's a female Robin? Take a look. When I draw those interests and I show these kids that, they start saying, I can do that too. And I have a lot of girls that are in my class that are like, I love Wonder Woman. I'm like, oh, okay. I have a big Wonder Woman poster in my classroom. They love it. So I'm like, all right. But when they're like, I can be just like them. And they can take away. Because I've had these kids share stories that they would never share with anybody else. These are kids that would never want to tell anybody, like, hey, you know, my mom, you know, I look at my mom like this, and she's really my superhero. Or my grandmother, my grandfather, and that they passed away. And I've actually cried in my classroom because these kids are willing to open up and share those stories with me, so I open up with them. Like, there's a picture, like, as much as I'm a comic book nerd, this picture of me and my mother. My mother passed away 4 years ago. And my kids are like, well, who's your hero? She is. And she's over my shoulder, so my kids see her every day. And they know that that's who I idolize. Yeah, I love Batman. I have Funko Pops and posters and all that stuff in my room. But they know the real hero is her. And when they see that personal connection and they see that interest, they see where I draw that from, that's right there, I built that bridge. My homeroom defends me all the time. Whenever I'm not there, they get mad. They're like, oh, when I was not there yesterday, I was supposed to be here yesterday, but I ended up going to work. And they were like, you're not supposed to be here, but we're glad you're here. I was like, yeah, because you guys are going to do your work today. No, because we actually want you here. That's something that not all teachers, and I know some of the teachers in the room feel that way. If you're a teacher, it's sometimes difficult to get the teacher to be that connection where they like you, but then the sub's there, oh, we can now putz around and not be in the class. Because Lord knows when I was back in school, sub was there, I wasn't doing any work. That was old school. Now, a little different, because now when you become a teacher, it becomes a whole different mindset, like, no, you need to do your work, and you yell at the sub for not doing your sub plan, which has happened to me many a time. Now, the honorable mention is after this would be more drawing on what, besides drawing on what you know, what you're interested in, putting stuff in your classroom. They're in a low-income school, which is a part of where I teach at too. A lot of teachers are afraid to bring stuff from home because they feel that it's going to be theft. You're going to see someone take it from your room. It's happened in my class, not in my classroom, but it's happened in my school. My kids know I've set a precedent. My stuff, you don't touch. You want to see it, I'll gladly pull it down and let you look at it. But they know that if I came back to my classroom and something was missing, they would instantly say, he took it or she took it. And I was like, don't snitch. You guys should know it's a respect. It's not saying my classroom's a museum. You can pull a graphic novel off the shelf. If you want to take it home, ask me. If the kid wants to give it, I'll give it to the kid. I can replace the comic book for $20. If I could teach you the concept of asking before you take, and knowing that you can see my stuff and that it's not something that if you really want it, I'll give it to you. Again, I was gifted many things by my teachers coming up and friends growing up. So to me, if I can give something to these kids and they have an opportunity to get something that, like, wow, Mr. Saunders thought about me. I have a bunch of old comic book teachers that don't fit no more. I bring them in the bag and I'm like, hey, let's have a raffle today. We'll do Kahoot. I run Kahoot on the smart board, and man, I'll do like a superhero quiz, and these kids are fighting. They'll get their laptops out, and it becomes this hyper-competitive atmosphere, and it's fun. Because you'll see them like, oh man, I'm gonna get like 10,000 points. I'm like, really? You're gonna get 10,000? Everybody, he's gonna get 10,000. Who's gonna get 20? And it suddenly becomes this bidding war, and then at the end, I'll have a bunch of prizes for everybody, and then they'll get to take it. And it's all stuff from my personal collection. Stuff that either I'm giving away, or just I feel like they would want. You know, I've even gone out to like GameStop, make friends at GameStop, I'll tell you that now. They'll give away all their stuff. Their freebies that they don't get for trade-ins, they throw them in the trash. If you work in a low-income school or you want them, just ask. They will freely give it to you. I have friends that have given it to me, and my kids, they love Legos. I don't know, 8th grade, I don't know why, 14-year-olds love these mini Legos. And I have like the arrow, and they're like, oh, I want that. I'm like, dude, I got like 4. Relax. Here, take one. But they like that sort of stuff. I mean, I like it too. I'm in front. I have a bunch of them on my wall, but still. They like it, and it's fun to give it out. Again, it's something that I can use as a gift for them, or you could use it just however you see fit in the classroom. And like I said, it works any age. You can go from, would you say pre-K, you could do it in pre-K? All the way up to high school? So, and I know when I taught high school, they loved it because they used to buy buzzers. And I had like a cowbell, a buzzer, and they would sit there and they'd be like slamming on the buzzer, and they would fight. I mean, these kids would be yelling at each other, and it was fun. My class was so rowdy, my friends loved to come by a bunch of times and be like, excuse me, Saunders, can you stop? I'm like, well, we're having fun. He's like, can you take the fun down? You're tested next door. I'm like, okay. He closes the door, I'm like, all right, kids, let's go back, and then be louder again. I can't help it. I mean, I'm that guy that's I said it in my last one, and I know you heard me say it. I'm a habitual toe stepper. I'm a line stepper. I don't like someone telling me what to do, especially in my classroom. Because if it works and it keeps you interested, you're learning. It's hard. I came from a different era where learning was a lot more interesting. It was a lot harder. There was rigor. And I hate that they're in the classroom and they're like, well, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. I'm like, it's not working. Trust me. I see a lot of young people, my nephews and my nieces, they're like, I don't like school. I'm like, well, I don't like teaching either sometimes because it sucks. But here's what I can do to make it fun. And when I tell them that, I don't go tell my kids that. My kids, no. My personal family, I can tell them to. Like, I hate teaching. What do you need to learn? And I use them as my barometers because they'll tell me what works. When you go to your family, if you're real close, if they got young ones, it's always fun. Like, what are you learning? I'm learning about spaceships. What did the teacher do? Nothing. Really? We saw rockets. I'm like, oh, you know what we did? I went on YouTube and I found this awesome video. NASA? Yeah. And my kids get to watch it. That's another fun thing we do. I try to incorporate as much as I can, not just drawing from what I put in the classroom, but I put other fun stuff that I like in my personal life in there as well. Because trust me, they have no filters. 8th graders have none. I know high schoolers have less of a filter, but 8th graders have none. And they always want to know what's your business. Like, hey, you have a girlfriend? Are you married? I'm like, why does that matter? We're talking about Black Panther. Why are we going from nerd to like my personal life? But then they hear they'll again drawing from that. I put pictures in the room. Like we did Black History Month and we did Black superheroes. I did not realize how many there were. As a minority, I was shocked. I was like, Miles Morales, I'm gonna throw him up there. Half Puerto Rican, half black. I'm like, hey, that's me. Win. I was like, hey, let's put Kid Flash up there. Why? Because regular Flash is awesome, but Kid Flash is equally cool. And my kids were able to go up and they're like, hey, that's Nick Fury. I'm like, look, leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. Did you happen to know his grandfather was part of the Tuskegee Airmen? And they're like, what? Right there, connection to history. Granted, it's fictional, but you can now take the real with the fictional and draw it in. If you have that interest at home, I mean, I know a lot of people do. Sometimes it's easy to draw those lines, sometimes it's real hard. So, how many teachers do I have in the room? Just curious. All right, what grade level do you teach?
Right now, elementary.
Elementary?
Yes.
This is super fun. If you buy pops and have fun stuff with them, what grade level do you teach?
College.
College? Dude, I'll tell you, Legos has been the big thing. And I'm going to tell you now, if you have Legos in the classroom, it's a lot of fun. I've actually just started wanting to introduce it because Lego actually has a program which you can get into and then they'll pay you to learn their stuff. And I'm like, really, you're going to pay me? I need every penny you want to give me. So sure, I'll go out to your training and they'll give you a bunch of stuff and give you kits. If anybody that is doing CTE sort of like technology, you can do Minecraft. Microsoft does, they'll give your classroom a terminal. And as a teacher, you can go edit the terminal and create stuff for your students to actually do in the classroom. We're actually trying to do that now. You can write grants. I've been starting to write grants now, and it's not the fun thing. Believe me, I do not like writing. I love writing, but I don't like having to write a business grant because it is boring. Because I'm sitting there like, dear so-and-so, I come from blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I just want your stuff. But there's a lot of free resources out there that you can grab that are really awesome. One of the most fun things I've seen that people love to grab is templates. In that binder right there is this presentation, and I have templates. Like one of the things we're doing right now is civil rights. So I made a contest. I said I have a lot of artists and kids that don't like to talk. Because I love to talk, and they hate when you stare at them. They're like, why are you staring at me? I'm like, because I can. See, it's bad stuff to do that. But I digress. So I have this whole thing about these templates. I'm like, hey, I got a contest for you guys. They're like, what's the contest? I said, I have 6 winners that'll get a Funko Pop each. So the kids are like, oh, okay. I like that. Go on. I'm like, all right. We're going to pick from a list of civil rights leaders. Out of that list, you have to draw in the Funko Pop. It's a template. You got to draw it, color it in, write the backstory. So you actually have to do some research, know the character, know who it is. And they have like 2 little Funko blank ones, like, so collect them all. So I said, if we did Malcolm X, who would you say? Martin Luther King? Maybe Gandhi? Rosa Parks? I'm like, all right. I said, so here's the challenge. The 6 best ones, we're going to judge them. I got some judges to come in. They're going to be judged. And out of those 6, the best one's going to get a do-it-yourself Funko Pop. And I said, you're going to sit with the art teacher, and the art teacher's a total nerd, loves this idea. They're going to put clay on it and actually design the Funko Pop, and I'm going to splash it all over the internet. Because these kids crave that attention. Yes, they know Instagram, Snapchat. They don't do Facebook anymore. Lord knows that. I'm going to be 40 this year, and suddenly I'm now out of touch with everything. But they're into this stuff, and if they hear, wait, I can be on the school's Facebook page? I'm going to be on the Twitter page? I'm going to be on this? I'm in. And the fact that they're learning. So these are like little templates I've seen online you can do. Like they have a lot of character templates, depending on what grade you teach. What grade level do you teach?
Myself?
You.
11 and 12.
11 and 12? Oh, nice. High school's a fun age. Trust me, I did it. I liked it. They're very chatty.
Yes.
I know, sometimes it's hard to get them to be quiet, but if you have that interest, like you can pull from it. Now I'm going to ask, if you guys have any questions, because this presentation is mostly questions, so please feel, yes?
Yeah, the question that I had, so I'm totally with you and have been doing some of the things that you're talking about, but sometimes a roadblock that I encounter, what do you do when it stops becoming a gateway into the real, like the Nick Fury, Tuskegee Airmen, and it starts becoming a source of distraction, i.e. Fortnite?
Yeah, I have that issue too. I play Fortnite. My girlfriend bought me.
I'm against the game itself.
All right. When I've had to hit those roadblocks,
Yeah.
I go into the kids. I'm like, listen. Y'all want to talk about Fortnite? You can't squat up. If I took you out, I'd take you out. Like I'd snipe you, and maybe I get their lingo down because I know their lingo. My brothers having a 26-year-old little brother is awesome because he's into all this stuff. So I go to him and I'm like, bro, just tell me what to talk about. And I use it on them, and it gets it back onto what you got to get onto.
Okay.
Also, when there's more graphic novels that are out there that are relatable to topics, like Alexander Hamilton, March is another good one. I found one that was recently called, it was called Black X, which is actually an alternate history where African Americans were treated badly, but when they died, they were brought back with superpowers. So the whole comic is an alternate history, and that's where you have some fun. So you can take it, if you find things like that out there, and I have a bunch of resources that are going to be, that you can contact me and I can give you the information. There's a lot of great ways to steer the conversation back. And try to always have something in your back pocket. As a veteran teacher, even though they say I'm a PT, I'm not. As a veteran teacher, just always have something in your back pocket you can pull out that you can always bring up, like a quote. Like I've done quotes as a bell ringer too in the classroom, where you can be like, hey, this Batman, like, why do we fall? And have the kids explain it to you. Have them go from their perspective and then use that to lead into your lesson. You know, I know that my principal loves us having our lesson plans done for like 2-3 weeks. I do week to week. I know he's probably gonna watch this, so I apologize. But, you know, in the whole big thing, if you can create those ways of having that card in your back pocket, it makes it a lot easier for you. Cool. Like I said, feel free to ask questions, guys. This is part of that fun part. Yes, sir.
My impression, and noting that your principal may be watching.
Oh, please, he likes me, so. I hope so.
You mentioned instances where your colleagues, and I think in some points your administration, sort of question what you're doing, and why you're doing this, why aren't you doing that. I wonder, does that go in the other direction, or are there times when what you are doing actually gets across to them and they understand that you have some good ideas?
That's an excellent question, and recently, I just had a meeting about this the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. I sat with my principal, my AP, and another AP that works with social studies. And I had that exact conversation with him because the other social studies teacher on my grade level, he's old school, loves to sit at the pulpit and preach to the kids. And I'm like, that works in 86. Like, the way that they're teaching now is it's students. And I had to learn this. You give them the keys, they drive the bus. No one have your hand on the wheel. And my principal, I showed him the actual exercise I worked with one of my students. I said, look, I turned it around to him yesterday. I said, this works. And I've made such an impression because of these speaking engagements and actually meeting other teachers that are doing this. He's starting to now want to apply. Like, they just bought us as a sample March Volume 1, 2, and 3 because we're doing the Civil Rights Movement. They bought us some other alternate history books so I can use it when we start talking about modern history. And it's now starting to get through. My principal's also looking to move forward, and he's more of a progressive. And the other teacher's like, well, I don't know anything about this. And I'm like, well, don't worry, I got you, but that's why you let me drive the boat. I got you. But he's still, like, he likes to, you know, and I've tried to reach out to my other departments, and I have some with English language. A lot of people that like to write, it's like, yes, I love comic books. And I'm like, well, you do? Why don't you tell me? Like, hello, I'm right next door. And they laugh, and they're like, well, okay. And I'm like, here, use this. And I go to them. A lot of times I've been reaching out to my other colleagues, and I ask. And I've been reaching across the grade level. As part of what my school does, we have something called vertical alignment. So from 5th grade, when they go into 6th grade, you want to set something up all the way up to 8th and going into 9th. So for me, in order to prep them, when I taught 6th grade, I wrote the curriculum. I wrote my curriculum from my grade level. And of course, I had all my things. And I was like, here, guys, use this. Use this. If it works for you. If you have zero interest and you don't know how to use it, I'm like, don't do it. Because you're going to do an injustice to yourself. Because the kids will be like, well, I know more than you do, and then you lost control. And I know that every teacher in this room, first thing they tell you is classroom management. If you don't have it, they don't like you doing it. So I was like, oh, God. But when I taught the 6th graders, and now that I'm not teaching 6th grade, I have one teacher or two of them that are comic book nerds. So I left the playbook in their hands. I said, you guys now can do this. When I went to 8th grade, I was by myself, an island unto myself. So knowing that the other 8th grade teacher does his thing, I'm like, well, I can still do my thing. But then those students get jealous. Because they'll walk outside my classroom, and they're like, man, you got superheroes, and look at Martin Luther King looks like Superman. What's going on there? And then I'm like, well, if you ask Mr. Mobley, he'll help you. Of course, the guy's like, I get an email later that day. Can you tell me what you did to do this? And I'm like, here you go. Here's the rubric. So a few years ago, I met a lot of like kind of negative pushback. But now it's becoming, because they're seeing it's like more of a global phenomenon, that teachers are starting to use it, and it's becoming positive. So much so that the head of our social studies has reached out to me to actually present this year for teachers that are across our district, which I was nervous when she reached out to me. I was like, oh no. I was like, okay, so the thing I do for fun, you're gonna have me do this in front of teachers to teach them how to do this? And she's like, yep. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. But again, it is a scary thing to be that nerd and know that I'm using something to break that wall, kind of like Deadpool. I want to break that fourth wall. And I feel like this is that fourth wall, because nobody wants to say they like it. But you'll see them with a t-shirt on, like dress down day, they'll be rocking like a Spider-Man t-shirt. I'm like, well, why? Why do you like Spider-Man now? Like, what happened to you, like, using it in the classroom? I don't want the kids to know. Funny story. I was in middle school, and my teacher, Mr. O'Mara, this guy made an impression on me. Loved him. He was a great teacher, homeroom teacher. Loved him. I go back to my school to get a job in New York. He's now the media coordinator in the library. So I walk around, I look at his office, and on top of his whole office is the entire cast of Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Mr. O'Mara, when did you like this? He's like, oh, I liked it when I was teaching you. I'm like, dude, if you did this, I would have gotten like a 90 in science class instead of a 65. And he's like, oh, oops. And this was like 10 years ago when I went to go apply for this job. So I was like, wow. And now I'm starting to see teachers come out in the classroom more and feel more comfortable. There's a lot of guys through Twitter that I've met. One guy in Pennsylvania, Tim Smith, he was elected to go to Comic-Con and present. This guy is presenting in April and invited me to come up to Delaware to go with him because I've been running the North Carolina, kind of starting the movement here. There's teachers in Maine that have reached out to me. I actually didn't realize I was starting a movement that now has picked up steam. And it's interesting because I want students that want to be teachers, parents that are at home, or teachers that are currently doing it, do it. It's fun. It's scary, yeah. But if you're into the stuff, they see it, they love it. And plus, I love it, so it makes it more fun for me. Like I said, you can take a boring topic, we can talk about modern history, and I'll be sitting there like, the kids laugh, I'll be sitting up there like, yeah, Putin, fun times, nuclear bombs. And the kids are like, I'm like, well, what happens if Putin was like Lex Luthor? And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, what if he's bald like Lex Luthor and he has nuclear bombs and who's gonna stop him? Well, are we talking like fictional history? Why not? And now I've drawn you back in. Something that I was bored talking about, but I can bring it back into that. And again, it's hard. It's not always easy. Now, I have on like a Google Drive that has a bunch of stuff on it that I can share with lesson plans that you can adapt to what you're teaching, so it makes it a lot easier. I mean, some I've done is 8th grade, but you could tier it to be higher level for high school or even elementary. Because I know it's never easy, but if you could tell them to find, I mean, how many people that are teachers actually have one-to-one, like a laptop in the classroom? All right, cool. Because it's easier when you have the one-to-one. If it's harder where like you're in a lab and students have to use it, you can tailor it to maybe use Google. Do you use Google Classroom or like, for you, do you use Google Classroom? You guys don't? All right. I'd say if you do have like access to some sort of like blog, because I know there's a lot of teachers, like Tim Smith has a blog page, you can go there and put stuff up through there and have them access it, because it gives them, you know, the easier like traction. Twitter's also a big thing too. If you want to use it, it has a way for them to be moderated. I know my school loves us using Twitter. I don't know why. Like they love us hashtagging everything. I'm like, I don't like it, but hey, my students love using it and I use it. So now it's meeting other teachers, and that's been the best part. Like when you meet other teachers and other people that are interested and they give me ideas. Even people that are not teachers are producing materials now. Comic book artists are starting to reach out. Like if you ever want to reach out to like independent publishers that do these graphic novels, they'll send you a couple free ones. You know, just all you gotta do is like say like, hey, my school wanted to use this. A lot of times they'll reach out. Like there's I think it was the law library for Congress actually gives graphic novels that are court cases. And you could use those with lesson plans in your classroom. So if you teach law, political science, that's an easy way to do it. Also, it's alternative projects you can give a college student that you can, and if it's elementary, you can, I mean, it's not, I don't know how you can try that, but we can figure something out. But I mean, for higher level stuff, there is things that are there. Because trust me, I could sit there and read a court case like Plessy versus Ferguson, you know, or Brown versus Board of Ed. But if you draw it out and have the visual there, it's a totally different experience. Like, you can even do stuff with Star Wars. I mean, I'm not that big a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Trek fan. No offense. I know you love Darth Vader. But you can even talk about the Empire and the Republic. You know, the Rebels. You can talk about how you can compare those things in any eventuality. Like, why are the Jedi this way? What are they doing? You know, and that relates on any level. From why they have a lightsaber to what they're doing to defend the galaxy. What's their kind of mantra. All the way up to the legal ramifications of being in a republic and a dictatorship, to why they control the government. It's so much, and you can relate it to what's going on now. Star Trek is big with science. With Stephen Hawking passing away, my students actually, I had a lot of students ask me about that. They're like, did you hear about Stephen Hawking? And the first thing he said, did you see Big Bang Theory? I'm like, duh. But when I saw that episode and the kids were able to start talking about Stephen Hawking, I was surprised. They knew he was a physicist. They were like, wow, he had a huge impact. And it was interesting to see them draw from this interest and be able to tell me about it. And as a teacher, no better reward is to see your students be able to teach you something. Again, it's hard to do, but when you're relatable and you make it fun, like they always say, you're the fun one, Mr. Saunders. I'm like, well, don't say that too much. Say I'm the good one so they can give me a pay raise. We all teachers want to do that, but any other questions? Like I said, hit me with them. Because I can sit here and talk, but it's boring. This is kind of like what I do in my class, and they all sit there like, I don't know what to say. Because I can cold call, but I don't want to cold call. Because I can go to my friends like there and be like, you have any comments? Sir? I don't like doing that. But overall, one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is the controversy of, and I've noticed it, is talking about minorities. And when you work with minority kids, it's a very thin line. When you talk about Civil War, Rebels is a great graphic novel. It's a fictional history about like during the Civil War, and it's a great graphic novel to use. I've used March now, and March is very controversial. You gotta be careful because March is talking about lynching, talking about race riots. But these kids, if your principal, I would always say run it by your principal first, because I've had the displeasure of doing that, and my principal has been like, hey, let's have a conversation. And I'm like, oops. Like another example, I taught 6th grade and we were doing India. India is fun, because in 6th grade we do like world cultures. So I was like, Indiana Jones. Who doesn't love Indiana Jones? My Harrison Ford, you can't go wrong, right? The guy, he's an archaeologist. I wanted to be him when I was a kid. So I grew up to become a history teacher. Don't have the whip or the hat. I could have the hat, but not the whip. That's not that kind of panel. But I sewed the Temple of Doom. And I had to watch it first, because I hadn't remembered it. And I was like, ooh, there's that scene where they're inside the temple, or they're inside the palace, and he puts his hand on the breast of the statue and pushes the statue. So my 6th graders are watching it, and I'm like, I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, oh, let me just pass this part. Click. So the kids didn't care. We just passed it. One of my students is like, man, class ended early. Mom, I want to watch it. So he goes home. Next day, the parent comes into my class, sits down with me. Mr. Saunders, why on earth are you showing Indiana Jones to my 11-year-old? I was like, well, do you really want me to explain why? She's like, yes. I said, well, it covers Buddha, Vishnu, Dharma, Karma. And when I got to Karma, the lady, I could tell, whoop, lost it. But I had to prove my level of education, which I don't like having to do, because as a teacher, we shouldn't have to prove it. We're the experts. But having to, I apologize because I said I did not know that, I forgot that scene was in the movie. But it explained Indian culture. It explained a lot about their deities. And it explained the time period. Because it was also, Indiana Jones takes place in the 1920s and 30s. So the kids are getting several layers of culture. And once I kind of got through that, and several apologies, it worked, and the parent understood. So that's how I was able to use that. Now, again, if there's any other questions or you guys want, I have my contact information up there. So fellow teachers, if you want to grab it, or anybody interested that wants to contact me, you guys can. I'm on 2 different Twitters, my personal Twitter account and my school Twitter account. You can friend either which one and follow them, because I do these speaking engagements quite often. And I always love making connections with people that want to do this stuff in the classroom. So again, like I said, I'm working with 2 other teachers right now, and I can supply you with a list of the graphic novels I'm using. And if you guys find stuff that want to add to that list, feel free. I also have my own YouTube show, so you guys can watch that, like the geeky one. And I'm setting up a whole new channel. It's going to be called In Session with Mr. Saunders, which is totally going to just be about lesson plans and how to incorporate this into your classroom. So I thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate you guys being here, okay? Enjoy the rest of the class. So yeah, it's right there. You grab one of those. Tim, you're right. I didn't need the mic. I didn't need the microphone.
Of course not.
And that's the show. Well, everybody, I'm recording. It's Dre from the Geek Depot. I'm just sitting here recording at Oak City, getting a little view of all the cool stuff you can see. I will be actually recording, not recording, but doing my panel today and recording, so fun times. But yeah, I figured you guys should get a fair shot of what's going on here. So yeah, figured I'd have a little bit of fun so you guys can see a little bit of what I was doing before I actually get to film. Alright, catch y'all later. Alright everybody, I actually have this on my tripod. It's your boy Dre. I actually had an amazing time at the convention and got a lot of compliments on my Ballard Club t-shirt. Too sweet. But on top of that, my panel was an actual success. Again, it seems like I actually pulled a lot of teachers that were nerds that came in. I had everybody from elementary school all the way up to college. And I had two of my friends, Tim, Joe, the girlfriend, Mary, all came out. It was great. I'm super happy and stoked that this show actually got to, my panel, I should say, called my show. My show's already on YouTube. But to actually have this happen was a lot of fun. And hopefully it'll get to happen again at Raleigh SuperCon, which Oak City, if you guys love my panel, please watch my YouTube show and bring me back because I'd love to do it. All right, guys, I'm sweating bullets. It is hot. It's St. Paddy's Day. Look at the Irish with me. I will see you all later. Peace. Hey, everybody. It's the end of day 1, I guess, officially for the convention, and day 2 of traveling. It's been an interesting day as it's been. You guys are going to see this video. This is part of the con wrap-up video. I'm going to be doing it because I know tomorrow is going to be hitting the dealer's room. I did pick up some cool swag. I picked up this cool Eye of Agamotto. I know you really can't see it, but I'm going to take it off so you guys can see how cool this looks. It looks like the actual eye, like his Avengers Infinity War, so Doctor Strange. I got that. I got a teeny little pin that you guys probably saw on my Facebook page. If you're a fan of Pokemon, Google him. He's actually really cool. My thoughts on Oak City, I have to admit, it is amazing. I think this is probably one of the best small cons I've been to. I apologize if you guys see me doing something off camera. I'm actually getting a drink. I'm thirsty. Not sponsored by McDonald's, but I'm totally dying. I guess I could say that this was probably one of the best convention experiences I've had in a long time. Heroes Con 2015 probably was the best one because that, or 2014 I should say, because that was the one where I got to take my picture with Stan Lee. Here, one of my very close friends who's also a teacher, his son and his, basically it looks like he acts like his nephew, they got to get their Ninja Turtle Funko Pop signed by Kevin Eastman. I got that picture, which was awesome because Kevin Eastman was wearing a Rick and Morty hat. I got tons of compliments on my Ballard Club t-shirt. Didn't get a whole lot of Bullet Club comments, which I thought, you know, with wrestling being a huge part of the fandom for comics and whatnot. But overall, my friend Tim got to come through, and that was awesome because much props for you coming out, brother. Appreciate it. Had a great conversation. Had him meet my girlfriend, Mary, which that was fun. Because you guys probably hear about Mary, but now you guys know I do have a girlfriend, so it's actually, you know, I get to talk about her on the show every now and then. And she's been watching the show too much, so I have to, well, it's good for my subs and for the views. But yeah, it was just great to have just a bunch of teachers there supporting this and actually sitting and watching it. It was just, I thought it was fun. And, well, yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, to say the least. I got to make some new fans. And whoever's watching this video after that was at the panel, please comment below and talk about this, like about your experience. I mean, getting to meet some people that are starting a non-for-profit that want me to help them out, that was fun. Tim Smith, who I follow on, I follow him religiously through Facebook, or not Facebook, sorry, through Twitter. He and I are, you know, are friends in the Twitterverse, and getting an invite to his PD that he's doing in April, I would love to go to that. And hoping I can make that. I apologize, my throat's been really, I've been getting over sinuses. On top of all that, just not making new friends, but having my teacher friends get together and actually getting to bond was a fun time. Getting to bond with my friend's son was a lot of fun too. I didn't expect that. But, you know, nerd culture, man, we always have this way of bridging it and making it fun. So, end of day 1, I'm exhausted, walked around a lot. I can say probably right now, it probably doesn't make a difference, but I did 11,231 steps from when I left the hotel room, came back with the stuff I got my roommate, came back out. So yeah, it's been a crazy day. But again, this con definitely I will come back to next year. I know these are the same people that do run here SuperCon, and they run NC Comic Con in November. I would love to come back and actually do my panel again. It was very well received, and I even had a student who's currently serving in the military come up to me and say, "Sir, you inspired me. I want to do this. Can you help me?" And I introduced him to my friend Tim, who was a former Marine, And it was like just awesome to see this networking that I'm building bridges through. And I gotta thank Tim Smith, and my own friends and just the people that have been supporting me this whole journey. This wouldn't have been even possible if I didn't feel that inspiration from 2 years ago starting this YouTube show. Now officially 71 episodes in, and this is what I've been doing. So the separate video you guys can watch if you want to watch that other, I should say 72 episodes. So if you guys want, check that other video out. Tell me what y'all think of the panel. It's different. It was catered more towards nerd parents, homeschooling, and teachers. So there was a little bit of that stuff. Did have another technical issue. My laptop wasn't in HDMI, but now I know to use my Chromebook next time. Other than that, it was awesome, and I look forward to doing it again. And I can't wait for SuperCon because it's in the area. So rock on. It was too sweet. Have a great one, guys. As always, my friends, stay geeky.